Brad Stewart here with Redwood Logistics, Chief Logistics Officer, and served in the Marine Corps in my previous world. But I have a pleasure today of speaking to Tom Stevenson, a Marine vet, and Hugh Bird, a third generation Army veteran today regarding Veterans Day and really focusing on what's the challenges, right? As we, all three of us, exited out of the military and went into the civilian world. So talk a little bit about that today and understand what how to make that a smoother transition, right? With less worry, less anxiety, and hopefully lend a few guiding points for you guys as you look at your life ahead in the military. So, Hugh, with that said, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give a little background on yourself, all right?
Very good. Thank you, Brad. My name is Hugh Boyd. I'm a senior supply chain manager with Lutron Electronics. I was a military brat, and so I grew up in the military throughout the U.S. and Germany, and then began my military journey as I went through West Point and graduated with the class of 1988. No task too great. And then after going through Ranger School and Airborne School, I had a deployment to Panama. And then from there, I was in several NTC rotations, National Training Center rotations. Uh, Once our first child was born, then we made the decision that I needed to spend more time with the family. I'm sure that's a subject many of you can relate to, and so I decided to get out. And so we'll talk a little later about some of the decisions that went on after that. Thank you, Brad.
You bet. Thank you. And Tom, how about yourself? Why don't you give a little background to where you came from and why the military, right?
Sure. From Wisconsin, I grew up on a dairy farm up in Door County, and then didn't want to do much farming anymore, so I joined the Marine Corps. Ended up in the Marine Corps for 4 years active, 4 reserves. Once I got out in 94, I hopped around some jobs. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Opportunity came to work for UPS. And I had a warehouseman MOS when I was in the Marine Corps. So I kind of fell into that, ended up into industrial engineering for UPS, and then kind of just went on to shippers, 3PLs, and a few other logistical endeavors after that.
Perfect. And then, Hugh, I was thinking about we had a little conversation before, right? And today your son is in the service. Is that true?
Yes, he's in the Army Reserves.
All right.
He came back from Kuwait this past summer.
All right. So he's got a 4th generation going on there. So that's good to know. And then one call out for Tom here. I was thinking about Tom, and on his bio, he had, he went a long way from Sturgeon Bay down to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, right? So that was quite the trek and different scenery by all means. But Tom decided to take 9 years and stay in Florida with UPS. So he liked the warm weather for a while, right?
Yes, I tried it, but nothing beats home.
There you go. All right. Well, good deal. Well, hopefully, gentlemen, I'll go through some questions with you guys, maybe just lend some more background on your perspectives and how it all came to be for you guys. But great to be here with you. Big question, of course, is, Tom, we had talked about, but why the Marine Corps?
I wanted to go into the hardest branch. Sorry, Hugh. I wanted to go the hardest route. I needed to prove to myself. It was really what it was. Growing up in a small town on a dairy farm, you don't get to challenge yourself a whole lot. And that was my way to challenge and see the world.
There you go. And Hugh, it looks like you got your Ranger haircut on today. So what drove you into the Army other than family, right?
Yeah, so that was the life that I knew and grew up, and so our family really brought service home to country as well as to others, and so as we moved around, I looked at the commonality that people shared and really wanted to work with soldiers, something that I really came to enjoy and love, and that's really transferred into the logistics role and manufacturing roles as well.
Good deal. If I read your bio right, you're a combat engineer coming out of West Point, but you did some logistics work while you were in the military as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's almost no military person that hasn't done some kind of logistics at some level. And so I was a mobilization officer, I was a BMO or battalion maintenance officer, I was a logistics officer. And so, most of my time in the service outside of being a platoon leader and a company commander was really revolved around trying to keep up with the crazy guys that were leading out front and making sure that they had fuel and ammo and trucks and that they were able to support themselves. And so with that, it helped me to really grow into the logistics love.
There you go. One thing we can always count on the military, right, is what's the greatest need. So it's not always the first choice when you go in. And we had talked about doing well on the ASVAB and having maybe a broader selection. But Tom, on your side, I think you went in and chose one side of the supply side, but you got a different side, right, when you're MOS?
Yes, I actually chose to be a 3043, which is supply clerk. Whereas they gave me 3051, which is essentially, it was called a warehouseman. They've changed the name now, but I did work in the supply warehouse.
There you go. And from my side, of course, logistics wasn't my first choice going through the basic school at the Marine Corps, but certainly one that I welcome and I look back on today very fondly of. So great time down in Camp Lejeune for myself as well. One of the big questions, right, for anybody who's transitioning out of the military for us is really what's the traits or experience in the military that I can carry over, right? So what do you guys feel from both a military leadership trait, right, where you might be looking at how you might apply those in the civilian world, but also from an organizational perspective, how do you feel that lends well to the civilian world? Hugh, you want to lead us off?
Sure. Some specific skills. If you look at after action reviews, which many of us have done, and accepting feedback, that's a terrific opportunity for being able to learn and grow. Something the military really trains us to do that civilian companies eat up. They love that, and so that's a way to really take your experience from the military and move forward. Your initiative, your creativity, your transition between different teams, different missions, different assignments, all of that is critical in the civilian world as well. And they're just not as used to making those kind of changes than as the military is.
Very good. Very nicely put. Tom, on your side, you got out of the Marine Corps, and like yourself, you and I both went into a large transportation provider that loved military, right, back in the day.
Yes.
So what were some of the traits that you brought to the table that allowed you to endure 9 years at UPS at one of the largest ground terminals?
I think it was being able to work with different diversities, working with a lot of different people that, you had a lot of commonality with the military side, but you're also dealing with a lot of civilian in there also, and being able to manage those personalities and those mannerisms of each of those groups, and how you handle yourself in those situations, whether it's a conflict or a celebration, and learning how to deal with those was huge. And I think I got that from the military, being definitely very diverse in the military, probably the most diverse organization in the world.
Absolutely. Plus the union side of UPS was full swing, right, at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yep. I myself experienced that as well with Yellow on the union side of the house with Teamsters back in, I launched my first day with them in 91. So yeah, they've been on a journey since then, that's for sure. Tom, you mentioned diversity there in terms of all the walks of life that come into the military, right? It's really everybody, regardless of, race, creed, religion, whatever the case might be. How do you see that carrying forward even today, right, within our workforce that we have? And you guys are overseeing teams and different folks. So how do you make that learning experience valid even today?
Well, even today, there's even more diversity. I mean, you have generations now that have developed since I was even in, and how to deal with that diversity. Um, I think it's opened my eyes to, especially with my employees. I have a different type of employee. Every one of them is different. They have, different ways they want to interact with me. Some why they want me to be very direct. Some I have to be a little touchy with. The military showed me that discipline where I can't just spout off, "Hey, you have to do this." So, and that's the military side where I have a very young Marine. He just got out, that I'm sort of mentoring. Him, I can be very direct with. He understands that. He gets that. He actually appreciates that. Whereas I have someone who's a little bit younger, fresh out of college, I can't be like that with. I have to coach more.
Yeah, great points, right? Hugh, today you're in charge of a very large logistics supply chain, right, for one of the larger companies in the country here. What are some of the trends and challenges that you're seeing in our industry that veterans can play a vital role, right, in addressing those challenges? What do you see?
Sure. In the military, we're always adapting to the situation that's there. We almost never have all of the information, all the resources, all the people, all the time to really be able to tackle the challenges that come up to us. And so in logistics, it's a little less deadly, but none the same. It's really important to be able to take your ability to look at a problem, listen to folks that are around you, and be able to adapt. So if you look at the border with Mexico, that's been a huge problem for the last month, where the border was closed and we needed to work around. How do we get materials across, and how do we prioritize those things that do get across for the most pressing customers? So all customers are important, and it's very important for us to be able to deliver. But we needed to work around and use different ports of entry in order to be able to overcome that.
Yeah, getting the mission accomplished, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, if there's one thing we had from our military experience was big operations, right? You just get to see a much broader view of things, which helps apply those learnings and teachings down the road here. Tom, going back to you real quick, you did mention, obviously, you just hired a new Marine out of the military. So you're like right into this transitional period, right? For somebody to come out of the military right into the civilian world. What are some of the things that you're seeing in this firsthand view, right? That folks that are thinking about getting out of the service, come into the civilian world, that they should be looking at a little bit deeper as they kind of make that transition?
I think one of the things they should look at is definitely, is there do they look for veterans, especially like their job posting? Is it in there? Veterans are encouraged to apply. And then go ahead and when you're interviewing, ask, do you have any other fellow veterans? It's definitely worth asking, because those people can be potentially a mentor for you. And then definitely look at the boards and what have you. Every company has a board where they have sort of other people where talk, or ask other Marines that maybe have been working there in the past.
Yeah, great points. And Hugh, that goes along with what you said last time we were talking a bit, but you said, look at the culture of a company. Could you kind of maybe expound on that a bit more?
Sure. Lutron's a family-owned company, and as you look at a company and you try and choose where you want to go, look at the culture of the company, because the military has a terrific culture, and one of the things that's very important in your success moving forward and being able to transfer the skills that you learned in the military to the civilian roles is to be able to have a company that has a culture that mirrors you, that mirrors the military, the best things that you can find. How well are they open to new ideas, to some of the initiative? Do they look for hands-on leaders? Do they want someone who's leading from the front? Do they want a servant leader, someone who sets the example? All the things that we've really come to know in the military, how well does that translate into your new organization? And so as you're interviewing, it's very important to ask about that company culture. Ask about what things does that company value. Ask, how does that company value leaders? What is the program that they have for developing leaders? All of those things are very important, and we don't always think about those.
That's a great point, especially finding the right fit, right? And then, Tom, you mentioned too that it's not just about finding the right fit, but also having a desire about doing the job, right? And in the military, you get exposed to a number of things, and you kind of see what things you may like, what you may not like. And then we get in the civilian world, we got this whole world, but there's always a pressing need. Well, I need to get to work, right? I need a paycheck. So talked about that a little bit more in terms of what to look for in terms of aligning your interests to the position that you're seeking.
Yes. The one thing I looked at and what really drew me to UPS was their structure. When I interviewed with them, they said they're very regimented, very structured. There's a career path right up front. And that Marines normally strive in that situation. Military in general, sorry. So and that drew me to them. I really had no interest of getting back into logistics after my military career. But after they kind of talked me into it, I was actually recruited. And then I fell in love with it. And I had a passion for it after that.
That's great. That is very good to know. You guys, you talked about mentoring, right? In terms of somebody coming into your organization that has a military background that's transitioning out, and this is their first civilian work or job after that military career. What would you say would be something that they need or should be looking to do as they make that transition, right? Is it a mentor? Is it organizations, educational opportunities? What do you guys see as a good alignment, you on your side?
So I'm gonna hit that from a couple different levels. So one, you're moving perhaps to a new location. It's important to be able to look for support within that community. There's lots of veteran organizations that exist within that community that will support new veterans that are transitioning in. Additionally, within your workplace, look for those individuals who have prior service. I was fortunate enough when I went into Ford Motor Company that my first boss was a Vietnam vet, John Kinzinger. Terrific guy. And for him to be able to have our back to help us to learn how does our military service transition into that company culture and be able to be successful was terrific. And the second part to that is your family support. Do not sell that short. Your family has supported you during your active duty assignment or during your time in the service, and they will support you in your time here, and that's really critical. I'm fortunate enough to have a spouse that ran things when I needed to go away from home for extended times during my time in the civilian world, and that's very important.
Yeah, great call out, especially with the family piece, right? You can't get it done. You can't do it alone. That's for sure. Absolutely. Tom, you're in the middle of mentoring a person that's come onto your staff. What are some things you see that you're doing with this person to really help that transition flow smoothly?
I think the first thing I had to do with him was get him into a routine, get him into, I hate to say military mode again, where you're in a routine, you get used to doing the same thing over and over again when you come into work, and then helping him adjust to he was not in an office position, and the position he is now in is an office position. So that was a huge change and a challenge for him, knowing when to say things and what to say in an office setting compared to the jargon that you didn't have to worry about in the military. He struggled at first, but he has come so far in just a few months that I've had him now. And I look forward to that. And then explaining to him, you're about to be, set for life. Logistics is not going to be something that's, going to go away. It'll always be there. It's recession proof for the most part. So take advantage of it.
That's a great call out, right? If you're great at logistics will always be there for you. And if you want to stay in it and do it, it's not going to leave. That's for sure. Well, good deal. Well, now I'm going to put you guys on hotspot a little bit, and I'll go first. So one of the big things I learned, I guess you might say, when I was out of the Marine Corps, of course, it was right during the ramp up to the Gulf War with Saddam in Kuwait, was really understanding how to engage employers in the marketplace when I was looking for a position, right? I had no clue. Yeah, I had a resume, but the resume was very military in terms of job functions and what you did, right? Really didn't tell my story of who I was. So I found a person that really enabled me to engage with, different employers from back in the day. It was letter writing, right? You send your resume, you got a letter, you got a nice letter, you do follow-ups and things of that nature. But it really kind of set the stage for me to allow me to find that position ultimately, and then get hired in and get ingrained into a position that allowed me to grow right from there. So Hugh, on your side, what was the one single thing that you did prior to transitioning that enabled you to get to Ford Motor Company?
So I relied on actually my West Point contacts. They were having an association of graduates meeting, and they had lots of different companies come out that were looking for academy graduates and military officers. And so to be able to go into that environment where that's those are the people that these companies are looking for, the talent that they're looking for, was very helpful. And, you don't walk into the role knowing exactly what the company's looking for and exactly what the company, how to do the job that they're asking you about. But being able to learn, being able to bring that hands-on leadership to the company was very helpful. And so I was able to land a job with Ford Motor Company in this SAT conference.
That's great. So networking is powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Very
reaching
much
out to
so.
folks, right? Understanding what's going on out there.
Yeah,
I
you
remember,
have to have everyone's help.
Yeah. I remember out there, they used to put on like junior military officer type of career fairs and things of that nature. So that was just understanding and talking to folks, right, about it, about their company, about the roles that they saw within the company was very powerful. Tom, how about yourself? Well, how did you mentioned UPS was courting you a little bit? So how did that come to be?
Well, it didn't start off that quickly. When I first got out, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So it was about 5 years. I bounced around trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I did security. I did movie theater management. I did some programming because I did teach myself how to program Java while I was stationed in Japan for a while. I tried that. I tried a few things, and none of it satisfied me. So when I did get to UPS, it was a whole new world. It was a trigger. Said, I know this. I did this very similar stuff in the military, and I enjoyed it. And then I just kept on going.
There you go. Found your calling, right?
Yes.
In terms of, the mentorship part, right? I think what we'd want to do here as a group, right, in terms of soliciting folks out there that are transitioning or thinking about it, you got questions or anything like that nature, please hit the Redwood LinkedIn piece and ask the question. And Hugh, Tom, or I will most certainly respond back and offer you insights that we have and share those with you. So as I kind of close this down, one group that comes to my mind that's out there is Troops to Logistics. I think they've done a nice job in trying to marry up folks in the industry to potential folks exiting the military. Anything that comes to your mind, Hugh, on your side, or any other words of wisdom, I guess, for the folks out there in the military?
No, no specific groups that I haven't already mentioned. Before we do wrap, I would like to give a shout out to Redwood for hosting this event, and also to thank the servicemen and women for keeping our country safe and the families who support them.
Absolutely. Tom, how about yourself?
I cannot think of any groups off the top of my head. I have some Facebook boards that back in the day that I, did talk with, but bulletin boards are a thing of the past. So use your Facebook groups, find those.
LinkedIn, right?
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
Yep.
Yes. You can find me, message me directly. I am more than willing to help. And like Hugh said, I just want to thank all our veterans out there for definitely keeping our country safe.
That's right.
Keep the torch going.
Yeah, absolutely. So pleasure meeting with both of you today, and to all the veterans that have come before, still on active duty, active reserves, bless you all and stay well. Happy Veterans Day. And then a special call out for Tom and I to all the Marines. Happy birthday on Friday this week.
Hoorah.
There you
Hoorah.
go. All right, you guys. Pleasure. We'll be seeing you soon. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.